Yeah, I can see that. Okay, hello everybody. Right. Oh, sorry, you're going to...
Yeah.
You do the introduction.
Absolutely, yeah. Hello, it's Gareth and the iMoot team here. Great pleasure to welcome Jeremy Hopkins from Birmingham City University, who's going to talk about workflow, course quality and user experience. Thank you very much, Jeremy, for putting the presentation together, your time, and good luck and thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Gareth. Thanks very much. So, hello everyone. As Gareth said, my name's Jeremy Hopkins. I work for Birmingham City University. I work in CICT as an MLE, VLE support manager. So this presentation, it's a bit of a hodgepodge of different things, to be honest. But I'm hoping it'll be of interest to anyone that's looking at improving consistency of Moodle courses. And also, if you're sort of starting out with Moodle, there might be some useful lessons in here for you. So we've used Moodle since 2004. It was piloted in 2003 and it went onto a productive server in 2004. I've worked with it since 2007, and since then we've added Mahara portfolios, Kaltura for video transcoding, learning objects repository, and a few other bits and pieces, including Big Blue Button. Actually, I was just talking to Gareth about it, should have been in there. We have single sign-on, so when you log into Moodle, you sign on with the university's login, and you can move between different applications without having to keep re-logging in. And we've built our infrastructure out, so we have a private cloud infrastructure. And so this was going on for quite a few years until 2014. We completely rebuilt Moodle. We used to have separate Moodle instances for historical reasons, and we had to reorganize the university, which is difficult with separate Moodle systems. So we rebuilt the whole thing from scratch. We migrated about 3,000 courses using some Moodle plugins, Moodle Moosh plugins, to automate the migration. They came over without user data, and we also have something called the course portal, which I'll show you, and we use that to automate the rollover and enrollment. And we did this in 2004, and this is the first time that really Moodle was closely aligned to the student record system, and a lot of other things have come out of that since. So that's a bit of the background. This is what Moodle looked like in 2004 for us. This is a single sign-on screen, so anyone who wants to log into any of these applications over here, they get sent to this screen, and once you're logged into one, you're logged into everything. And that started to create some issues in that we wanted a more consistent experience as users moved around these different systems. And so we started to, it wasn't myself, but the sort of web design team came up with this common design language in terms of fonts and colors and basic layouts for all of the applications. So over time, more and more of our applications have started to sort of follow this pattern. And so when a user goes into Moodle, they know that the search bar is there, they know their profile information is going to be up here, and certain other things, they know where to find them from learning it in other systems, or vice versa. If someone goes out of Moodle into one of our other applications, they will also know that the search box is there, for example. So you can kind of see that on our theme. It's a bit of a, not the best screenshot, to be honest. It's got a lot of test information. It's not showing all the features. It's got sort of slider images you can put on that. But again, you can see in our Moodle theme, this is sort of consistent with the screen I showed you previously. And if you want to try this theme, it is actually on moodle.org if you want to have a look at it. So this was the kind of infrastructure we had in 2004, which was essentially everything on one server and a redundant server in case that failed. And this is closer to what we have now. This is probably a bit out of date actually, but a sort of virtualized clustered environments. And this is kind of an overview of how the learning platforms themselves are built out. This is Moodle here, and various other applications that are all linked together. So we've got quite a good sort of learning platform now, and this up here is the student record system, which was kind of the last thing to be integrated in an ideal world. It would have been the first thing that we did, but it was the most complex. So for the rest of this presentation to make sense, I need to kind of talk about the course management process, and in particular this little bit on the end. So what we have is this BizTalk application that manages services, and it monitors our student record system for new modules. So it would be a degree module, and when it finds one, it adds it to this Your Course portal, which is a web-based portal, and from here it will allow staff to make a duplication request or a rollover request. And this uses Moodle's web services. There's actually a Moodle web service called Duplicate Course, and it does a backup and restore, essentially. So you can back up the previous year's course and restore it, and it will rename it. So if you back up My Module 2014-15, it's going to recreate that as My Module 2015-16 for the following academic year. And the other thing it's going to do is enroll students. So we have a course enrollment queue, so all the students get enrolled as well, and this is scheduled here. So all these jobs are scheduled up, and we duplicate the course, and it verifies course completion. It enrolls all the students automatically on the Moodle course. And there's another feature to manage teachers, so that you can manage editing staff either from here or within Moodle. And the reason for that is that, or one of the reasons, is that it allows people who have a role in this system over here to assign roles to Moodle courses that they couldn't within Moodle. So if you imagine somebody's a manager in this system, but they don't have a manager role in Moodle, they can still assign editing teachers and module leaders. And this part on the end is something that we added afterwards, which is after the course has been verified, we've got a custom web service in Moodle, and we initially set that up to resolve some issues with Turnitin assignments, or a few things that we had to perform on those. And after that, we started to realize that we could use this web service to do a lot more with the new courses when they were rolled over. So after cloning a Moodle course, we could start to actually do things with it to get more consistency across our Moodle courses. So this is just a screenshot of part of this Your Course portal. It's a big system. I'm not going to go into everything it does, but it's essentially a management layer. So this screen is one that a student might see, and it has information about their degree course. They can go and find information about the course they're enrolled on, their degree modules, and as you can see here, there are also links to the Moodle courses that correspond to their taught modules. And there's a lot of stuff in here as well for actual management staff or academic staff. But the bit that we're talking about today is really how you create a Moodle course from this system. So this is a completely different screen, and you can see here you have the ability to create a new Moodle course, which will essentially be a rollover. It will do a backup of the old course and restore as a new one. Or you can link to an existing Moodle course if you have different occurrences of the module sharing the same Moodle course. It's these kind of complexities that led us to using this portal rather than trying to do it all in Moodle. And when you click create, it's going to suggest last year's course. So what this has done here, it's suggested that I roll over last year's copy of the course, and if I click use this, it loads up this information. So I'm getting the full name of the course and the short name out of Moodle. I can click here or here to actually view that Moodle course, and if I'm happy it's the right one, I click clone, and within about 20 minutes I will get an email back saying your course has been rolled over, here's the link, and you can go off and start working with your Moodle course. So it's a very quick process compared to having to manually back up and restore in Moodle. And so when we did this, the benefits we expected, well, of course, the automation, it's a big time saver. and automated student enrolment. And this was a big driver, that the first time a student logs into Moodle, everything is there for them, because historically, when staff were using Moodle for enrolments, then it could be a week or two. I mean, you will know if you use Moodle that if you want to use manual enrolment, you can't enroll the student until they've logged in for the first time and they have a Moodle account, unless you're going to use CSV upload. Whereas the service we have now, I should have mentioned, we'll actually create the accounts for the students before they've ever logged into Moodle. So the idea was that these web services would create the course, create the accounts, create the user accounts for the students, and enroll them onto everything before they ever touched Moodle. And it was also to encourage the use of Moodle, because it's now part of a workflow and can be reported on. You can see how many degree modules do or do not have Moodle courses. It can also be used to link documents between the two systems. This was another one. Really, we weren't sure what would happen with this, but we knew that it would open the door to future integration, which is indeed what's happened. And also just better visibility of what's happening in Moodle. This kind of comes back to what I just mentioned about being able to report on things, say, well, you know, how many modules within this school don't yet have a Moodle course, and what's the level of participation on those Moodle courses, that kind of thing. It was also another strand to this, was that historically we never really knew, certainly I didn't as an administrator, which Moodle courses were actually being used for teaching at any particular time. We could see all the courses were there and that, you know, you had students on them, but what were they actually being used for was difficult to determine, because it wasn't easy to get back to a module in the student record system. So in 2014, when we rebuilt Moodle, it was closely aligned with the student record system, and it really gave us more of an insight into what was actually happening, and also because it was a new system. And these are the kind of issues that we noticed. So we had this increased visibility, and we also fairly regularly poll students and ask them for feedback. And these are the kind of things that we noticed. So students were gaining access to their Moodle courses as we'd planned, but the assignment dates were incorrect. A lot of them still had last year's dates. Template information was not replaced, and I've put just like iMoot, and that's because I don't know how many are still like this, but unfortunately, if you look around iMoot, I'd be surprised if there aren't some of the course pages that don't still have this. So it's inviting the iMoot presenters to edit me and add write a few words. Well, that's great. I think I've done that on mine. I hope I haven't left anything like that. But not everybody does. Some people just don't notice, or they plan to come back to it and do it a little bit later and don't. And we actually saw this in live Moodle courses for students, which said things like, tutor, please enter description here. And you can imagine I mean, it's one thing for that to happen at iMoot, which is kind of a very short-term, busy, you know, event. It's quite another to have that on a degree module that students investing a lot of money and time in. So we really weren't too happy to see things like this. And we also had issues with courses being hidden, sections being hidden, so people weren't accessing things. A lot of courses were missing a summary, a lot were missing course images, which our theme shows on the front page, and we have a couple of other third-party plugins that look much nicer if those course images are added. Another problem if you're using a rollover process based on Moodle's backup and restore is that the course creation dates and start dates don't change. If you create a course in 2010 and you roll it over for 2011 and roll it over for 2012, by rollover I mean backup and restore, the course creation date is always the one from 2010, and that makes sense because it's supposed to be a backup and a restore. It wasn't originally designed to be used to roll courses forward. So that caused some sort of management type problems, and fixing that gave us an opportunity to do more things as well. And more generic things, just that help information was lacking. And the system students found just difficult to navigate. I think that's a common complaint about Moodle generally. For us, it was compounded by the sort of inconsistent use of blocks on Moodle courses. So as you know, Moodle's quite dependent on blocks for navigation, but if you try and produce a guide for students saying look for this block, then on any given course you don't, apart from certain blocks that are fixed, you can't guarantee that all of them will be present, and you definitely can't guarantee whether they'll be in the same position moving between different courses. And of course some students may dock the block and forget about it, so that was something else we wanted to look at. And inconsistent course layouts was also a big complaint from students. They wanted every course to be similar enough that it was familiar to them. They could go into the first course and understand where things were, and then when they went into every other course throughout their degree, they knew where to look for things, and they just didn't, because we had different course layouts and in fact different course formats. And another issue was that information started to be duplicated between Course Portal and Moodle. So these were the kind of things we wanted to address. So what we did about it, we started to write some plugins and build out the things that this web service did that I mentioned earlier. So we've got a course checks block, which helps staff identify and fix problems. Module information resource, which I'll talk about, which avoids this kind of issue with the sort of standard please replace me text. And module information block that pulls things out of the course portal, and centralized help. We've tried to improve the navigation in the theme. So these things in purple here are the things that we addressed through the web service. When a course is rolled over, we set the creation and start date, as I mentioned. We automatically set the block positions on rollover, and we set the course format on rollover. And the sort of academics who drive this have actually chosen Grid, which might please Gareth, because I think Gareth wrote that plugin, or certainly maintains it. And to make the transition to this easier, because this year we're going to be converting several thousand courses over to Grid, we've just added a repository with some Grid images to help staff get them looking nice. And we also released Bootstrap Element plugin, which I'll talk a little bit about later. That's all related more to scroll of death, if you like, or trying to counter that. It was also based on work that Sussex University did. I noticed they had features for expandable content within their pages, and because our theme was using Bootstrap, then it was relatively easy to add something like this that leveraged that, so that you can do some quite nice things with courses with that plugin, and I've got some screenshots of that coming up. So if we start with the course checks block, if something is wrong in Moodle, then it should tell you that there's something wrong and it should help you fix it. Now, core Moodle can't really do that because it doesn't necessarily know what you're doing. And before writing this course checks block, we did look at the Open University's workflow block, which is very powerful, but you've got to have the management structure behind it. You've got to have an approvals process within your organisation for that to work. We looked at other things like I think is it bronze, silver, gold, or gold, silver, bronze badges, but again, they rely on a lot of human intervention to kind of assess it. And really what we wanted was just something that could be automated that would help staff. And, common problems for staff, the fact that the only thing that tells you if a course is hidden is grayed out breadcrumbs. Well, it's just not obvious enough. And the same with course sections. If a course section's hidden, it kind of grays out a little bit, and it was too subtle. And a lot of settings are buried several clicks deep. So assignments are the big one. How do you, when you look at a Moodle course page, how do you know if your assignment dates are out of date or not? With standard Moodle, then you might be clicking into each one. I'm not sure if there's another way to do it. There certainly is with our system now, because we've added it. And again, this is where setting course creation date came into play through this web service, is because we set the course creation date and the start date for the course. Although start date was actually, we use course creation date We added start date because we released this plugin and thought, well, it would make more sense for other users of the plugin who are probably using the start date on the course. But because we set these dates on course rollover, then we can say, well, if an assignment is older than the course creation or the start date, then we can show the member of staff an alert and say, you've got an out-of-date assignment here, you need to fix it. And this little gear icon will take them directly into the assignment so that they can update it there. This here is just nothing but a link into an Open University plugin called the Dates report, which I'll show you in a moment. As we can, I've actually got another slide where I'll talk about some of this stuff. I'm getting ahead of myself, but we've got a clean course button to clear out empty sections. So a legacy we have is that Moodle used to create courses with a default of 10 sections. Lecturers would use the first 6 and leave the first 4 at the end of the course, for example. So it's one click to fix that. It's showing you the course is hidden. This is clickable and will show the course. And not only for us, not only show the course here in Moodle, but back in the course portal. So we need to keep course visibility synchronized between Moodle and the course portal. And we can actually hide Moodle courses from either system now. So we haven't released this yet because we've got to finish it, and then we've got to create another branch because this hooks into a web service and we can't release that bit. So, but this will all be this version will be available on Moodle.org in the not too distant future. And we can see here it's saying, have you set a course image? Have you added a course summary? And is guest access disabled? The reason we did this is that sometimes staff had guest access enabled on a Moodle course, and they'd email students a link to it, and the students would go in and they'd view it and then say, why can't I post to the forum, or why can't I see the assignment because I haven't been properly enrolled. It's certainly less of an issue now we've got automated enrollment, but there are Moodle courses that don't use automated enrollment, generic things like research skills, for example. So somebody may send a student a link to a research skills course, and if the student's accessing as guest, then they can't actually do what they need to. And as you complete these actions, then these sections collapse. So if you click this clean course, when I tested this earlier, I had 2 empty sections on my course, so no content, it hadn't been renamed, didn't have a summary. It deleted the sections for me and told me that they'd been removed. And then that should go away, I think. As we move through and update these, then we'll see that this menu collapses. Once this is all green, it collapses. The dates report, when you update this date, this will collapse. And the section checks is just an optional one. We used to always, this one no longer auto expands and collapses, and the reason is that there are legitimate reasons why you would never complete all these. Some people don't like to add a summary to the section necessarily. They might choose to use a label or something else. So, but the one thing that this is good for is visibility. So as I mentioned, we have had problems where people have hidden sections and students can't see them. So at a click, you can get a quick overview and you can look straight down the list and say, are all my sections visible? That kind of thing. And when you're ready, as I mentioned, once you're happy with all this, you click this icon and it makes it visible. The other important point, as you would hope, this block is completely invisible to students. You don't want students seeing all these red crosses. So it's only visible to the course editors. This is just talking about the link to the OU report. So if you install this plugin and it is useful, then for staff to find it, they have to go to admin reports and then dates, or should have been course administration reports, dates. So it's a bit hard to tell staff to get there. So all we've done is literally link to this. And this report then allows staff to update all of the dates for every activity in their course in one place. So it's just another tool to help them at their sort of rollover process. So the course checks block is all, as I mentioned, it's on Moodle.org if you want to try it. It's an older version on there, but it will be updated shortly. What this one is showing now is the module information block. So I mentioned that some staff, this won't be released, by the way, this is completely dependent on our own web services between our own systems, but some staff were copying and pasting information between the course portal and Moodle, putting it into Moodle HTML blocks, which wasn't ideal. So we just created this block, and in these block settings you can actually get this content to display directly in the block, or you can set a time limit. So you could say for the first 2 weeks of the course it will be expanded and then collapse. And this is the other nice thing about having moved to Bootstrap with our theme, or any Bootstrap theme, is that you can see here it's just got a button and that opens up a modal. So now nobody has to copy and paste, they can just add this, or we could automatically add this block, and students can just click that and see the module leader, link back to the page for this module in the course portal. And if there are shared documents like module guides, assignment briefs that are in course portal, they'll also be listed, the links for those will be listed there. So the next one, and I think this might really sort of interest some people. We haven't released this yet, we're still working on it, but it's not far off. And this is really where we hope to try and get away from this kind of thing. I'll be interested to see what Mary Cooch thinks of this. I'll have to ask when it's released, because I know she's kind of advocated using this method in the past, and it makes sense to do this. I don't mean to be overly critical, but you know, as discussed, there's a downside to it. And aside from this, you know, we wanted standard information in all courses, as I've mentioned, and we know from experience that this kind of thing happens. And also, there's no sort of process or workflow to that as such. You can't run a report on Moodle and say, has this text been replaced, or certainly not easily. And we think that Moodle should really tell staff what needs to be done, allow us to report on whether it's been done, and only show correct information to students. And so what we've built for this is a module information resource. So you can see here it's available as a resource type in Moodle. When you click to add that, you'll get this open up. There are 5 sections. It's not very clear on this screenshot, but there are 5 individual sections, and you see what we've got in our course at the moment: a sort of welcome message, learning outcomes, and we still have the default text here, add your welcome message here, and we still have copy and paste module outcomes here. I should add that this is configurable from the admin settings of the plugin, or will be. So as an administrator, when we release this, you would be able to use this and set it up as an admin, and you wouldn't have to have welcome message. You could have something else here, and you would have your own default text in this section. Hi, Guido. I did cover the course portal earlier. It's an external system. We have a university portal that pulls together all sorts of information. I could send a screenshot of it over, but it's, as I said, it's a portal, so you get information on emails, print for students, information on printing credits, and all sorts. Pretty much every other system is hooked into it in some way. And when they built the course management system, they built it as a subset of that existing portal. So when we wanted to hook Moodle in, then that was the obvious jump off point. Or in fact, we were only able to really integrate Moodle because that system was there. And the reason we couldn't integrate with Moodle with student record system before is because we have a many-to-many relationship between SITS modules and Moodle courses. So for example, we might have more than one degree module sharing the same Moodle space, or certainly we have different occurrences of the same module using the same Moodle space. Or on the opposite side of that, we might actually have the same module but different occurrences of the module, so the same module taught at different times that has different Moodle courses. So there's all this complexity that led us to use this course portal as kind of the jump off point for our Moodle integration. But if you look at what City University London have done with their rollover process, they seem to have more of a one-to-one relationship between their student record system or their management information system and Moodle, and they've got something completely built in Moodle. So it kind of doesn't matter too much how you do it, I guess, but I hope that kind of answers your question as to what the course portal was. So back to this this module information resource, you fill it in. Essentially, your administrator sets up what this looks like, and your academic staff fill it in. And what they see if they haven't filled it in is under each section these red messages: please update this section, please update this section. It's in collapsible toggle sections, again just using Bootstrap, so it's all kind of clickable, expand and contractible for students, so it's a bit more concise, because for us this is going into it's the first resource in any Moodle course essentially, is this plugin. As I've said, it asks staff to update, but crucially for us it's invisible to students until it's completed. If a member of staff leaves it like this, then the student won't see it. The student only sees it when it's completed. So again, this is how we kind of try and avoid things like this happening. And when it is complete, this is what a student sees. So I've expanded this one, I can see the content, but the others above and below it are collapsed. So it's a bit more concise. So if you have a lot of information for your module, it's a little bit more neat and tidy. So the other plugin I mentioned, which is kind of related to that because a lot of the code between these plugins is similar, is this Bootstrap Elements plugin, which it just made sense to try and leverage Bootstrap once we had it in our theme, but it's a bit tricky with the themes at the moment because they're using different versions of Bootstrap. I think we're going to have to move ours up to, I think Gareth probably knows, but I think Moodle are going to move to Bootstrap 3. I think they might be using Bass Brand's theme in core for that. So hopefully if that happens, then the various Moodle themes may get a bit closer together. But at the moment this will work in our theme. And with a bit of work, it'll work in any Bootstrap theme, but out of the box, it might be a bit sticky. But essentially, you go in, you add a resource type, you give it a title, you add your content. You can add Font Awesome icons by searching. So you click here, it will bring this little pop-up. You can see I've searched for heart there, and it's found me two heart icons from Font Awesome, and I chose that one. And it will apply it to this element when I render it in the course. And in this drop-down list, we have different element types. So this can be a toggle, a collapsible toggle. It can be a modal pop-up, or it can be essentially an enhanced label with or without block quotes. And the reason I'm showing you this now is because it's in some subsequent screenshots, I'll show you what it actually looks like. Again, this is on Moodle.org if you want to try it. So Centralized Help was another big one. I would imagine most people have had this for years, but because we had different Moodle instances, we didn't. So again, in our theme, there's a feature, if you paste in a help link, it will render a help link site-wide in your Moodle site. Now, in our case, we actually direct the help link to a script of sorts, a redirect script, and it will send students to a student help page and staff to a staff help page based on something we have called person type, which is specific to us and some of the specific to our authentication plugin essentially. We have our own single sign-on plugin, and one of the fields in there is a person type of staff or student, but essentially we route different users to different help pages. And so this is the kind of thing they see, and this is Bootstrap Elements. Here we've added a label with an icon and this content, and here exactly the same plugin has been used to render this modal pop-up just by choosing the element type. And so we've used this quite extensively in our help pages. This is another screenshot from our help pages, that one actually telling our staff how to use it. So again, I've added a label up here, an enhanced label with Bootstrap Elements, and then a second one set to modal, and it opens up a help video. So this can really improve the kind of look of the course and gives the ability to do some quite nice things within a Moodle course. And just some more screenshots of that there, as to just to give you an idea of how we've actually started to use this internally. The biggest thing is that you can, if you use toggles or modals, you can pack a lot more information into a smaller space potentially. And another one from our help page, and I'd strongly advise anyone looking for help information, certainly in the English speaking world, is to plagiarize Learn Moodle, because Mary Cooch said it was okay. So if you do the Learn Moodle MOOC, there's about 30 videos in there. They're actually on YouTube. And if you go through the books on learnmoodle.net, as in the book activity, you know, Mary said she was happy for you to take the content, which I did. So I haven't used all of their videos, but essentially anybody starting a new Moodle user now, they can click our help link, they can go get started, and they've got all the video series from Learn Moodle in our system, and it hasn't cost us anything but a little bit of time to get that. So in terms of improving navigation, the kind of complaints from students that we used to get, I can't find my content on my courses, quite often related to an enrolment issue, or they just didn't know where to go. This comes back to consistency. You know, it was a big complaint from students that we had inconsistent layouts and inconsistent use of blocks. Where are my assignments? Where's my feedback? Where are my grades? Or what's happening on my courses? So this was another area we sought to address. We've kind of done, as you can see in the theme now, we never used to have any of this. If I showed you a screenshot from last year, we essentially took a lot of these ideas from Essential, which Gareth looks after as well. So Essential was one of the first themes. I might have been the first theme to start using font awesome icons. It had a My Courses list. We kind of renamed that because for us a course is a degree course, but if you mouse over that you get a list of all of your Moodle courses. So all this has been adopted by a number of other themes now. This one is just for staff, just shows their tools. And this one, Garrett's just said he's borrowed bits from BCU2 from our theme, and I think this might be one of them. So when we were trying to do help guides for students and answering the question, how do I find my assignments? Well, you can never make a single tutorial that will work for every student. And you can never rely on there's a block, a Moodle block that displays this. I'm not sure if it's the activities block, but we couldn't even rely on that being present or always being present in the same place. So essentially what we did here was take the idea of Moodle's activities block and put it into the theme, and then regardless of what a lecturer had done with their course, we could tell a student, go to my site, go to the course you want, go to this course, click assignments, and you would see a list of all of your assignments for that course. And we were able to start answering questions like that. Another one was, how do I find the participants on the course? So you can do it the same way. How do I find my grades? Well, go into course, hit this, click on grades, that kind of thing. So this has been a big help to us. Oh dear, that's a really bad typo, isn't it? I'm sorry about that. So improved notifications, it's kind of related to navigation. Again, for any of you that kind of follow what other universities do with Moodle, Sussex University in England a few years ago, we sort of pioneered a lot of this stuff, but in Moodle 1.9, and they had a feature like this kind of activity feed, which was really nice. So if enabled on your Moodle front page or on My Moodle, it gives you a site-wide view, and it kind of looks a bit like Twitter. And in fact, Sussex, at the time they built this or pioneered this, they didn't actually write this one. They were trying to learn more from social media, and they were talking about things like showing user icons. Your profile pictures were more inviting for people to click into. And what these are Moodle plugins written by the City University of London, again available on moodle.org. And this one is the activity feed. So on my home, it will show me all of the activity across all of my Moodle sites, and I can click here to visit. Or if I want to get rid of it from this list, I can just click remove and it will take it off this list for me. And it's supposed to highlight the ones that you haven't read in yellow, and once you've visited them, they'll turn white. So you can see any new things that come up that you haven't looked at come up in here, which is really nice. And the other one that they've written to match this is just the upcoming events block. So this is just an improvement on the default Moodle one, but it shows the course image or the profile image again, and just looks nice. So, and these have been quite well received. Well, I'd say the response has been mixed. Some staff don't particularly see the value in it, but a lot of students have said that they like this. I think it's useful, and I know in my own case, because we use Moodle forums for discussions with our user groups about Moodle, because we're based on different sites. I know, for example, that a couple of times I've picked up an email on my phone from somebody on the way to work. I tend to get the train to work, so I've read this email and I thought I must reply to them later. I then go back into work or arrive at my desk at work, and that email is marked as read, and I don't look at it again because it's not coming up as an unread mail, and I've forgotten about it. And then on more than one occasion I've gone into Moodle and I've seen that message or that forum post that generated the email message here and gone in and replied to it. It is useful. They're well worth looking at, those plugins are. This is a view of our Moodle homepage, or a snippet from it. So our theme, our theme shows the course images in tiles on the front page, and here we have these on the Moodle front page as well as on my home. Another thing that we added, can't take any credit for this, but there's another plugin on Moodle.org called My Feedback Report. So this really answers the questions: where's my grades? Where are my grades? Where are my feedback? Hi Joshua, the course images, if you go into your Moodle course, edit settings, under the summary section you can upload summary files. So go into Moodle course, edit settings, look for summary files, upload it there. It's not just our theme doing this. I think Core Moodle will show the images in categories and places like that. And a couple of themes are starting to show them on the front page and things like that. But it's a Core Moodle feature. I think any theme will at least use them in categories and other plugins, and well worth using. If you can get everybody to do that, it does make your site look much nicer, and it's one of the reasons that our course checks block actually looks for that. We're trying to encourage staff to use that. So yeah, this My Feedback Report, this actually at the moment links to a feedback form where we get feedback on how we're doing with Moodle. But essentially we will put a link up here. We'll get rid of this one and link it elsewhere, and we will have My Feedback under the user menu. We would like to look at adding a block to My Home as well that perhaps showed you the last 3 items of feedback, and then a link View All Feedback. But at the moment this is just something we took from somebody else. It's on Moodle.org, and really quick, easy way to answer a student's question: where are my grades, where's my feedback? When you can say, well, go here, and it will all be there. And this is really nice plugin. It uses jQuery. You can search here on multiple columns, so you could search for test, exam, and it would look at both of these columns and filter it. It's well worth a look. So in terms of standardizing courses, again coming back to this web service, we found that on rollover, because this service is getting called, we could remove all of the blocks from a course. Now, we have quite a few issues with this. Our Moodle site goes back 10 years, and so I'm a bit surprised if some of the courses we've got in our Moodle system now don't have their origins right back almost to that date. Every time we've rebuilt Moodle, we've always ported courses across. Certainly when I looked at the course creation dates recently for courses that we'd migrated out of the old system, they went back years and years and years, and we've got a lot where the blocks are a bit of a mess. We're trying to get away from using blocks like RSS feeds, which can be problematic. We're really trying to get away from HTML blocks as well, and kind of automate things that need to be included, like library information. So this web service this year will get rid of every block, and it will just put back standard blocks, including course checks, and I've mentioned library information. So every course that gets rolled over will include this block now, and there'll be guides for staff on how to use it. And as I mentioned earlier, will be also another thing it will do is set the course format to grid. So every course coming through this process, which will be beginning next week actually, will have a common format and course checks blocks, common blocks. And just another little tip, I mean, for us, as I mentioned, we've got 3,000 courses or so that are going to be converted to use the Grid plugin. Finding images for them is a bit of a nuisance. So to help staff this year, I'm not sure how long we'll keep this, but we just added a file repository in Moodle. So I don't know if you've ever used this, but you can just create a subdirectory under Moodle, the Moodle content directory. So I think it goes something like Moodle content / repositories / you can create a directory there, and within Moodle's admin settings you can create an instance of a file repository. So it doesn't take very long at all to do this, and anyone can do it really, and then start adding folders of images. So when we tell staff to use Grid images, we'll also be telling them, look, go in here and there'll be some image sets for you. And another little tip for building these, actually, a lot of these were made, I think all of these were actually made in PowerPoint. So people are just building their image sets in PowerPoint, and then within PowerPoint you can export them as JPEGs, and it will export every individual slide as a separate image. So these are obviously generic, but what some staff have done is put, gone off and sourced images that they've got the ability to use, sort of Creative Commons images and things like that. And then within PowerPoint, they'll put a title below each one and then spit them all out from PowerPoint as a series of images. And some of them look really, really good. So if you are going to use Grid on a large scale, then that's quite a nice trick. And that's just, these are all from different image sets, but these are the kind of things that staff have started to build, and members of our academic staff are giving us image sets now that we put into our repository, and then other members of staff can find them and reuse them more easily. And kind of that's the end of it really. I know it's a bit of a hodgepodge, but it's kind of more of a collection of ideas around a theme as to how you kind of improve a large scale Moodle site, really, is kind of the gist of it. But in terms of what we do next, I mean, we're continuing to improve our plugins. So there's quite a few changes that I won't go into across all of our plugins. We really want to improve management reporting, as I've mentioned before, and particularly now that, with things like the module information plugin, we can detect its presence and we can detect whether it's been set up. So as well as having things like course checks block within a course, to actually be able to identify those courses as well at a higher level. We want to automate more on rollover, so being able to add or remove resources automatically, so we can add and remove the blocks. We haven't quite got this bit done yet, but you can imagine next year we might say, well, we want to automatically add, we would have, for example, this year automatically added that module information resource type, and also apply course templates more effectively. And this comes from City University London. Their rollover process seems to allow you to actually choose templates. I'm not sure how they do that. I think they might roll over a template and then import all the content from another course into it. So we'll be looking at things like that. Also, we'll probably be putting more of these tools inside Moodle rather than them all being in the course portal. It's not great that staff have to move between course portal and Moodle at the moment. It was really done for expediency, but if we can add more web services to your course, then we can build more of the user interface in Moodle and kind of hopefully improve things that way. Also integrate degree level courses. So the course portal is based around the student's degree course, and a lot of degree courses actually have like a Moodle homepage for that degree, where it's not talk content but things like careers advice, and if it's generic content related to the field or the industry. So we want to hook those in as well. That's another change we'll make. And a big one would be to integrate assignments into this process. So just as we can map Moodle modules to courses, we want to be able to map assignments, and that would allow us to get all the grades out automatically into our student record system. But we also have things like automatic cover sheet generation with barcodes on them and barcode scanning. So what we would like, for example, is to add a Moodle plugin to a Moodle assignment submission plugin that allows the student to print off a cover sheet with a barcode, and they would attach that barcode to a physical piece of work. So it might be a piece of artwork that has to be handed in rather than electronic submission, and that when they handed that work in, the barcode would be scanned, and that process would mark the assignment as submitted in Moodle, and then the member of staff would actually go in and grade and give the feedback in Moodle. So these are the kind of things we're looking at longer term. If we did that with, I'm not sure how much of that we could release. Certainly, I think everything we've got's on Bitbucket in a Git repository. So yeah, there's some kind of interesting stuff. So if you manage to get this kind of integration between a student record system and Moodle, and particularly if you use Moodle's web services to do it as we had, which then gives you the ability to add your own web services, then it kind of opens a Pandora's box of opportunities for you to move other aspects forward. So that's the end of it now. I hope it wasn't too disjointed for you. It is more of a sort of a collection of ideas loosely grouped around a theme this time, but I hope some of you found that interesting or useful. Yeah, thanks Sarah and Joshua, thanks. Yeah, the barcode scanning actually is several years old, and again it was built outside of Moodle, and so what we're looking at now is, well, again, because we've integrated everything else through these web services, then it's perfectly feasible to integrate that system as well. And this is again why I would suggest anyone that tries this integration looks at Moodle's list of web services. I'll just go and get the link so you can just see just how many of these things there are. Just give me a moment. So here's I'll just paste in the link to Moodle's web services, and if you start to look down, if you have to scroll down the page a bit, you see how many web services there are now and what you can do with them. You know, you can manipulate assignments, you can create groups and all manner of things if you look down that list. So it's yeah, Sarah, it is the best way, I think, of if you're going to integrate systems, if you can use those, then it's a great method. It's certainly started to pay off for us. No, that's okay. So anybody else got anything they would like to ask?
Hi, Jeremy. Just while we're waiting for there, Gareth here from the iMoot team, and on behalf of the iMoot team, thank you very much for a very diverse, mixed presentation where you've got loads of different things coming from different angles, really trying to solve a real good common problem of getting really good practice going. So once again, thank you very much indeed for your time, for a superb presentation.
Oh, thanks very much, Gareth. Thank you. Oh, hello, Fred. How are you? So what happened there was the calls to the web services were built in this other course portal system, which had been built separately. And so they just used the existing Moodle web services to control Moodle in a sense. I mean, that's what they allow you to do. So the alternative would be to build everything in Moodle and pull in information from other applications, web services. And essentially we're doing both now. So Course Portal controls Moodle, and then we've got a couple of other things now. So I mentioned we had the module information block that pulls information in from Course Portal into Moodle, and also the course checks block when we show hide courses there. The reason that version isn't on Moodle.org yet is because there's stuff in there that we've added to call web services back on the Course Portal side. So when we hit show hide course in that course checks block, it also updates the visibility in the other system as well, because we didn't want students going into the Course Portal, clicking their Moodle link and then being told they couldn't access it. And part of that, actually, I didn't mention, was that we actually removed the capability of module leaders to show hide the course in Moodle. So that's the only way they can do it now. And the reason for that is that there are 2 or 3 places in Moodle where you can show hide a course, and there is a relatively simple core mod you can make to capture that event, but it just seems simpler for us just to remove the capability and put it into the course checks block, particularly because we'd put the alert there anyway, and a couple of people had already tried to click the alert thinking that it would change it. So and another point to make actually is that alert itself was based on another block. There's a Moodle block, another Moodle block that just alerts stuff to the fact it's hidden. So it wasn't just us having that problem. So we kind of nicked, I think we might have even nicked the formatting for that. I can't remember. I think this is the other thing actually. I mean, there's quite an eclectic range of ideas I've discussed here, and I've thrown in a few other plugins. And it's really the nice thing about Moodle in that there's so many ideas out there that you can leverage. When we put our theme together, there's barely an original idea in that theme, but when we released it was very distinct from any other that existed really. And we just went around and looked at every other theme and thought, well, we like this from Essential. We like I think the idea for the tiles came from my homepage on Elegance, for example, although another theme was released that used tiles. And there's just so much out there in the Moodle community to leverage, And in fact, in our course checks block, we didn't have to. We were considering writing a tool to help staff update the dates, and then found Tim Hunt's report and just thought, well, all we need to do is just add a link to that plugin. So if we release that plugin, we'll just make that an option so that somebody else can say, well, they'll install the course checks block from BCU and the dates report from Tim Hunt, and I'll click an option to kind of link the two together. So we're really trying not to reinvent the wheel and do as much as we can by mixing and matching other people's stuff and just being, adding a bit of glue in the middle almost. Sorry, Gareth, you did what? Sorry.
Oh, sorry, Jeremy, that referred to the course task box. It did come from the Elegance theme.
Yeah, the course tiles. Yeah, I was thinking there's another theme. Is it Simple Use? Is it as well? But I think the first theme I saw to try and use tiles was I think it was Elegance. I think, or maybe Essential.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't remember my brain memory. Yeah.
I can't remember who pioneered it, but I know that I didn't think of it. I saw it somewhere else.
Oh, yeah, it wasn't Elegance, but then Julian got the code from somewhere else.
Yeah,
it's all in the credits within the code.
Oh, right, yeah. So, yeah, I think that theme contains bits and pieces from several others. So, I guess most of them do now, though, don't they?
Okay, I think that's it. I'll stop recording.
Yep.